A lot of people talk about the Steelers being the best team in the AFC right now. Despite the record the Bills and the Chiefs have, a lot of people are saying that the Steelers might be the best team right now going in the AFC. Obviously, the Detroit Lions are the best team overall. The way they're looking, the way they're playing, their record says that or whatever. But give it a little credence, man. You talk about the Steelers and that defense. Who has a better defense right now than the Steelers? San Diego Chargers got a really good defense.
I like that you just called them San Diego Chargers.
That's awesome. I can't get past that. The LA Chargers, I'm sorry.
LA Chargers saying
I'm in LA Chargers.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens.
Chiefs have a good D. Steelers have a great D.
The Steelers have won 4 games this year.
Vikings have a good D.
Vikings, they got a good D. They got a great defense coordinator that needs to get a little bit more love and probably should get another head coaching job sometime soon.
Probably at some point.
I know he sued the NFL.
Yeah, he's got that little thing going on.
Let's get past that. Let's get past that. And we'll talk about that. But I think when you talk about the Steelers from the standpoint, when they know they're not going to get much from their offense. And I know Russell's played brilliantly since he's been there, and the Steelers' offense has gotten better or whatnot. But they've won 4 games this season where the team has scored 20 or less points. 4. They've won 2 games this season when they haven't scored a touchdown.
Yeah. Well, Boswell's been best kicker in the NFL.
Boswell's been fantastic.
He's won them 2 games.
In a year where NFL kickers, for some reason, you talking about Justin Tucker missing a lot of field goals, Koo in Atlanta missing field goals, Fairbairn, you're talking about some of the best kickers out there. And we're talking about kickers on the show. That's how kickers are not having great seasons. And, you're talking about the Steelers have won football games because their kicker has been accurate. And their defense has been tremendously great. TJ Watt also always comes to play.
Yeah,
Russell's.
Yeah, he's your defensive player of the year, front runner right now.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Tomlin, coach of the year, probably.
We should talk about that. Tomlin, coach of the year. I looked this, I heard about it, and I heard that Mike Tomlin has never won coach of the year. As long as he's been there forever, right? 20 years or so. Longest tenured head coach, I believe, in the NFL right now. Won a Super Bowl. Never had a losing season as a head coach in the NFL after all those years. Steelers obviously have a great coach. We talked about the culture and how much that matters when it comes to players, when it comes to coaching, when it comes to winning or whatnot. And the Steelers have only had 3 coaches in their entire history. Of course, Tomlin doing his job, winning the Super Bowl or whatnot, but never a losing record. And sometimes you look at some of the teams that he has, like, even though it's Pittsburgh Steelers and they got fans and the terrible towels all over, we were talking to one of the fans, Jim Jackson's going to come on the show a little bit later on. Like, whenever you had, like, high expectations that the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl to go far in the playoffs, or even, and you look at some of the teams over the years since they've had Ben Roethlisberger retired, and you got to remember at the end of Ben Roethlisberger's career, he was always banged up, always hurt, wasn't the same quarterback.
Yep.
So you got to go back. He just retired in 2021, but even before that, you think about the 2019 season. Mike Tomlin won 8 games in 2019, and what's his name? Devlin Hodges?
Yeah, Duck Hodges.
Duck Hodges. What, he started 6, 7, 8 games for them that season, half the season that year? Yeah. And they won 8 games. Mason Rudolph as the quarterback.
Yep.
You talk about some of the quarterbacks that they've had over the years, and Mike Tomlin's still been able to piece together a good enough roster, a good enough team to be able to have non-losing seasons.
That's a point of contention with Steelers fans, right? Half the fan base, it seems like they don't think that that's that great of an accomplishment. And you guys
point to him not winning a playoff game in 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, look. Okay, give me a team that you can think of that we've seen with the Steelers coming into the season where you're like, oh, this is like when we talk about with the Chiefs, we talk about with the Bills, even when we talk about the Cowboys coming into the season, when you have those expectations. I know it's the Steelers because it's the franchise. It's the Steelers franchise, right?
It goes back to what we talked about yesterday. Ownership, coaching, stability, culture, all that matters. And you see that time and time again, the teams that advance the furthest, consistently have winning records, and produce, on and off the field. It's Pittsburgh isn't one of those teams.
But I'll put it to you like this. When have you looked at the Steelers team and said, this team underachieved? When have you said this is a disappointing season for the Steelers?
Interesting.
When have you said that this particular team, with the talent that they have on it, especially on the offensive side, defense has always been solid. They always had great linebackers, always had great pass rushers for years. That's just been part of the culture with the Steelers.
It does feel like the height of Ben, AB, and Le'Veon Bell kind of underachieved a little bit, right? They should have went further, maybe made a Super Bowl with that.
Great regular seasons.
With that core.
Yeah, great regular seasons, kind of, faded out. And I don't think they've gotten to the conference finals. And I can't think of the last time that they've gotten to the conference finals game, conference championship game. But yeah, I believe, but last time you've actually looked at a Steelers team and said, oh, this team right here should have gone further. I can't think of one. I really can't. And give a lot of credit to Mike Tomlin. And another reason why you give a lot of credit to Mike Tomlin is because you talk around the league, and they do this almost every year where they ask the players, like, out of all the coaches in the NFL, who would you want to play for? And most of them usually say Mike Tomlin. Mm-hmm. He's always top 2, 3, if not number 1.
Yeah, 2016, they made it to the AFC Championship game.
Last time they made it to the AFC. And it's been a long time, but, once again, you ask Cowboys fans, would you like to have a Mike Tomlin on your team where obviously you want to go to the Super Bowl, you want to win it every year. But then, once again, Mike McCarthy won 12 games 3 years in a row and underachieved. So sometimes fan bases can get a little spoiled. I think Pittsburgh fan bases probably think that this Steelers team hasn't accomplished what they should accomplish because they expect more. Yankee fans, when it comes to baseball, you expect more, but you always have a great roster. Dallas Cowboys fans, you always expect more because it's the Dallas Cowboys. Lakers fans, even if they don't have a great team, it's just an expectations because of the culture, because of the past history of those teams, you expect a little bit more. But on the outside looking in, there are a lot of people who aren't fans of those teams that can look at that team and say, well, yeah, they're okay. They're good. They're fine. Oh, what? Wow, they went 500. Oh, this team went 10-7. This team went 11. Wow, how's that? And you look at the Steelers this year, and how's this team? What is it? 8-3, 7-3 this year? 8.
No. They're 8-2. They're 8-2.
8-2.
Yeah, they've only lost twice.
How's it? Yeah, they've only lost twice this year, and one of those games was to the Cowboys.
on a last-second play.
On a last-second play.
Yeah, we're not going to apologize for winning.
No, I mean they could be very well 9-1. They just beat Baltimore. They always take care of Baltimore. We're going to find out a lot about this team over the next couple of weeks, though. I mean, because outside of Cleveland, Cincinnati, so they still got 4 divisional games that are winnable, obviously, with Cleveland, Cincinnati, playing those 2 teams 4 times. But then you got another division. They've only played 1 division games, and that was against Baltimore.
Well, that's one of the things we talked about, Mike, before the season started when we looked at Pittsburgh and if they, could be a viable contender, was their whole division schedule was backloaded. Mm-hmm. And you came into the year expecting Cincinnati to be one of the top AFC contenders. We thought Cleveland was going to be much improved with Deshaun back and healthy. And Baltimore we knew was going to be up there. And KC on Christmas. And we're like, well, to begin the season, they really need to take care of things before the bye week and be 5-3, 6-2, before they hit that backloaded schedule. And sure enough, they did it. Yeah. Not in the way that any of us really thought, going, 5 games with Justin Fields, and now Russell Wilson comes back and he hasn't lost. Although he didn't look as great previously against Baltimore. They really kind of contained him.
But they don't have to. He doesn't have to. The offense doesn't have to. Look at this schedule right here. Atlanta's got a winning record. Denver's got a winning record. The Chargers, one of the surprise teams in the league. They got a winning record. Vegas, obviously, losing to Indianapolis and Dallas is almost like, wow, how? What? Huh?
Well, now you think about it, and you're like, how did they lose to Indianapolis?
How did they lose to Indianapolis? How did they lose to Dallas? I mean, at that time, Dallas, we thought maybe still has a chance. They still had the skilled players. They still had great players on the team. I think Micah Parsons may have been out of that game. I can't remember if Micah was out of that game or not back in the day.
I think Micah was out. Oh, yeah, that was a Flacco game against the Colts, too.
I believe, and then Vegas, obviously a win. Jets, Giants, okay, those are basically bye games. But Washington, those are big wins against Baltimore. That's impressive. That is an impressive schedule. That is
I mean, this is college football, and there was a committee, and you're talking about quality wins against ranked opponents. Pittsburgh has the best resume in terms of beating teams that we think are going to make the playoffs. When you talk about Atlanta and the Chargers, the Colts are right there in the mix. Washington, Baltimore. you talk about a resume, they've got it.
They got it. So are they the best team in the AFC?
No.
Who's the best team in the AFC?
I'm inclined to say Buffalo at the moment.
Okay. All right. I'm inclined to say Buffalo at the moment only because they just knocked off the Chiefs and because Josh Allen's playing that lights out pace. And they did that. They won the game without Keon Coleman. They got a good defense and a lot of defensive players are coming back, right?
Yeah, I like how they're doing it.
But I will look at the Steelers. You look at the bottom. Once again, we're going to find out a lot about the Steelers at the end of the year because you said it's backloaded. Outside of Cleveland and Cincinnati, they got the Eagles, they got the Chiefs, and they got one and Baltimore again. Back-to-back weeks.
Yep.
I mean, if they go 2-1, if they win the rest of they beat Cincinnati tonight, if they beat Cleveland tonight, and they beat Cincinnati the way they're supposed to, obviously, and they beat that's 4 wins right there, Cincinnati and Cleveland. And if they go 2-1, that means they can go 6-1 down the stretch and be 14-3 this season.
That's wild.
14-3 this season. And if you're talking about the schedule that they've already had and the wins that they've already gotten on their resume right now, and you go 2-3 against the likes of the Eagles, the Chiefs, and Baltimore, all 3 of those teams will have something to play for down the stretch because they're trying to get seeding and all that type of stuff like that. You have got to think about the Steelers of being the best team going into the playoffs and then have those expectations for them to do some damage once they get into the playoffs.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.